Welcome to SYNKD On Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and today I have Clint Albin with me from A24 Consulting, and really excited to have you on, Clint. Welcome.
Angelique, thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about what you and Daniel have been creating and the potential for our industry to help our industry. So, can't wait to dig into the details. But first off, I wanted you to have a chance just to maybe tell us a little bit about your journey in the industry up until starting A24 and, what your industry experience is, and then we can dive in a bit deeper to what you've created.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And to start out, I want to say it's great to be here with a fellow Louisianian, and that's one of the things, as we talked, I'm originally from the Covington area, which, for people who are not in Louisiana,
Not very far.
It's north of New Orleans. And I was raised on a farm and a grocery store, sort of out in that North Shore part with lots of pine trees around. And we had a small nursery. So I was very actively involved in the youth organizations of 4-H and FFA as I was growing up. And all my projects revolved around either livestock or the nursery operation. So I went to school at LSU. After I left LSU, I started working for
Go Tigers.
Yeah, exactly. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Right. So I worked for Weyerhaeuser, and they had a nursery products division then. And, it's interesting because in my length of time in the industry, I've actually seen sort of several versions of where corporations were going to do great things in the industry, and then things change and it gets modified. But I did operational experience at Shimon Nurseries and had an opportunity to work directly with Manny Shimon. After that, I became the director of Garden Centers of America at the National Trade Association, where I facilitated the management clinic, bus tours, and all sorts of like business improvement and best in class projects. Then I was the director of public relations for the IGC show. And in the last 10 years, as I've been focusing on consulting and then working on a regular basis with one of my favorite companies in the world, Homestead Gardens, which is in the Mid-Atlantic in Annapolis, Maryland. They're one of the top 100 garden centers in the country. So as I work with them, I've spent the last 5 years trying to ask myself, what's changing in consumer horticulture? Because I've always been someone who was sort of on the trends level, sort of trying to help everyone that I know in the industry understand what the next big thing was. And over the course of these years, we've tried new things like extending the season, figuring out how water plants were going to make a difference. And all those things really didn't result in either more foot traffic or it didn't convert into profits because there was an offset with the inventory allocation that was required to extend those seasons. So what I've been working on since 2024 was actually developing our company, A24 Consulting, and we are a comprehensive firm that's actually creating a direct-to-consumer fulfillment solution for garden centers and landscape contractors so that there's an easy turnkey way for all those companies, regardless of size, to have a way to have an online store. And that's what we're doing.
Fantastic. Oh, I love talking about transformations.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Our industry is really ripe for some meaningful change. And also, I think, COVID was about 5 years ago as well. I think COVID kind of helped accelerate some changes that were going to maybe happen, but it kind of disturbed many parts of the market.
Well, it did. And one of the things that we realized during that COVID period, especially sort of in the retail part of the industry, was that there were about 125 stores in the beginning of that year that had a very strong and resilient online garden center or an online presence.
Okay.
And during COVID, it went up to 2,000. And it was crazy. And there were everybody who was trying to do pick and pack and, e-commerce all at the same time. It didn't work. And by, the fall of that year, it had gone back down to about 125.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I think the technology has opened up. And this is what actually makes this time so exciting. One of the things with technological transformation, we actually see movement in months, not years, and in weeks, not months. And so the transformation is moving so quickly and so effortlessly that where the industry tried to have a conversation in the past about a reason or a rationale to normalize SKUs, to be able to have an online presence, or to be able to provide e-commerce or fulfillment, those sort of requirements don't exist anymore, because with AI or with sophisticated systems like Shopify, you just ingest a catalog and you're using objects, you're using metadata, you're using tags. And what was a requirement for a database in the past is no longer a requirement for a database today.
Wow. Okay. So a lot less back end work, or how does that manifest itself for the
So I think a
parts
word that a
users?
lot of people use is that it's frictionless.
Hmm.
Right. And so, it used to be that for somebody to get online, and again, we're talking about small to medium sized businesses, we're talking about family owned businesses, and it really doesn't make any difference which sort of part of the industry you're in, right? Be it landscape, be it retail, or be it a grower. If we really look at what was a real friction in the past, was that individual business had to possess all of the data that they needed to be able to get online, in addition
Yeah.
to having a requirement to fulfill it. And now what
Well,
we
the
see
computer
is that
skills
catalogs
too.
are available.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and this leads us to what you've developed. I mean, I think this is so exciting. Um, do you want, am I jumping ahead?
No,
Go,
that's perfect.
go ahead and explain. Now, um, the audience here for our podcast is generally landscape business
Yep.
owners, landscapers. They might be design build, they might be build only, hardscapers, softscapers, could be maintenance only as well. What will your technology and what you've developed, how will it help that demographic?
So we're going to be able to help that demographic, regardless of what part of the landscape industry they're in, by providing them with more money.
Sounds awesome.
So we're going to
Is that it?
provide people with
More money to
with
everybody.
more money, right? More money, and the reason that so our main objective is to actually provide additional revenue for some medium to small size businesses that are actually in this space. And the way that we can actually do it is we are providing a revenue source that didn't exist or was not available to a small landscape design company, construction company, in any of these businesses. They can have a turnkey fulfillment company. So those same consumers that shop those landscape type businesses for their services, right? So somebody comes to their website and they want to schedule people to come out to do a consultation for a makeover. That
Mm-hmm.
same group of consumers who search because of local reputation, because they see their trucks, because they see people with their logo on their shirt out in the community. So they've built great brand loyalty in zip codes
Yes.
and counties all across the country. So now they have an opportunity to actually provide direct fulfillment products to those same audiences. So those same people that are actually looking to, have a landscape refreshed, or looking to do a spring maintenance cleanup, those same businesses can get revenue by selling those individuals a citrus tree, by selling those people a specimen olive tree, by selling those people, those consumers at Christmas time, forced amaryllis. And every time those consumers make a transaction, that local businesses earns money.
And how much work does that local business have to do to earn that money? Because again, we have a severe people shortage, or, struggle to hold on to employees. What extra work is required by these landscape businesses?
So, are you still there, Angelique?
Yes.
Okay, so for some reason, so as far as the extra work is concerned, for those businesses, and it goes back to the word that I used earlier, frictionless. What we actually have the ability to do is all that small business has to do is they have to fill out a form online. They can go to our website at A24Consulting.com. There are different packages that people have based on the number of email addresses that they have. And it can be as low as $1,000 a year plus
Hmm.
transaction fees. But all it takes is about an hour of time for them to be able to
Wow.
do their part to set up a store. And then all of a sudden, they have a fully functional e-commerce store that is already loaded with suppliers, and it's already loaded with a marketing campaign that will market to their consumers weekly. There's a 52-week assortment, and it only requires an hour of their time.
Wow. And so it's a drop ship program for a garden center to add on to a landscape company. Does
Absolutely,
that summarize
it's
it?
exactly, it's a drop ship garden center that can be connected to any landscape company, and they don't have to do anything. And again, it's sort of making that transition in weeks, not months, and actually building additional revenue for the company in months, not years.
It strikes me that a lot of the companies that have scaled have done that because they've dropped the design and build side of their business, and they've gone to commercial landscaping, and they've scaled that. Um, but a tool like this could allow a design and build company to have recurring revenue. And that's huge, because that's one of the downsides of a design and build, or build only, because once you build a landscape for somebody and they spend $100,000, they're no longer a repeat client. But this could change that.
Absolutely. So what this actually has the ability to do, it actually allows for any of these companies under any part of the discipline to actually take that person who, as you just sort of categorized, right? It was a person who was a client or a customer of that design build company once every 5 years,
Yeah.
right? So all of a sudden, we're taking that individual and we're making them a 12 time a year customer.
Or
Our
more.
goal for actually, right, our goal for starting this was that we know that margins are razor thin
Hmm.
in consumer horticulture. We know that it's tough right now because employee wages are going up, when we look at benefits, when we look at all that. And we have a way to actually give back. We have a way for companies to earn passive income and to actually have a revenue stream so that they can potentially pay higher wages, so that they can provide benefits for
That's a
their
dream.
employees. The other thing that they can do is they can take their existing tech stack and they can upgrade. One of the things, if we're about to get to it, but I'll sort of like go fast. But one of the things that every business needs to understand, every local business, is that there is a change with AI, and it's about local search and discovery. right? So all these garden centers actually, or landscape contracting companies, they need to upgrade their websites, right? So when people are sort of saying, what is that design build company that's near me? It not only has to be found on Google with
Yeah.
SEO, but it also has to be found on ChatGPT,
On AI.
on
Yeah.
Perplexity, on Comet, on all of these other new AI
Yeah. It's
sort of
becoming a lot
engines.
harder, isn't it?
Yes. So we offer a product for that too. We'll analyze someone's local website for free, right? We'll tell them what they need to do to upgrade and to change. So a part of the money that we actually want in the revenue that we want to get back in the hands of these local businesses is so not only the human capital that they can do an upgrade or maintain, but the other technology that they
Hmm.
need to maintain. Everybody who's listening to this podcast should understand now the most critical thing for their business success moving forward is that they need to analyze their website and they need to upgrade it to make sure that it is found on AI search
Hmm.
engines. That's the
Yeah.
most critical thing that the industry can do right now is website analysis.
And this is future proofing your business, your brand, your website. Um, Again, love that we're talking about this because this is really, a topic that I like to make sure that we explore often. And the work that you guys are doing at A24 Consulting is feeds right into that. Make sure that you understand and you keep tabs, you keep
Yeah.
running with the technology because you can easily be left behind. It's not enough to just have a Facebook site. It's not enough to just have a website. You have to understand how things are changing, and it's changing fast.
They are changing fast. And one of the other mistakes that I think people have the possibility of making right now, and you use the phrase future proof. So future proof is sort of half of that equation about preparing, right? But in the current moment, people could potentially be misspending marketing
Mm,
dollars on a Google AdWord
yeah.
or a Google or a Facebook campaign that actually doesn't convert because their website doesn't convert. So this
Hmm,
is why the future's now. The future is
yeah.
here because people could be misspending money today if they
Yeah.
don't have their website ready.
And this, tell me if I'm delving into a subject that's um, not appropriate, but how do the marketing? There's a lot of marketing companies that work for landscape companies.
Yeah.
Um, do do you know if they're plugged into this? Do you know if how well as an industry we're prepared for this?
So the the one part of the biggest change it is that there are a lot of companies that reutilize information that's provided by the industry, whether it is product information that's on a display tag or
Hmm.
whether it is content that is pulled from a supplier's catalog. And while that used to be good enough to
Hmm.
be able to be found in the new algorithms and with AI, what we really have to do is that these individual companies and these product descriptions actually need to be searched at a 7 zip code level that is contiguous to the address of the business. So when we really look at
Uh,
making plant recommendations, it used to be okay to say, you know, in the mid Atlantic region, this
or
is a
zones
great
2 to 9, kind of.
right. That used to be okay. Now it's about my zip code. The other
Ugh,
thing, and this is something that's wild, right, is
yeah.
a lot of
Hyperlocal.
companies. are actually, for whatever reason, they don't list all their employees, right? They
Okay.
just, because of turn or churn or for whatever reason.
Mm,
But the companies that are actually going to succeed in the future, those are individuals who have employees who have answers. So for every design build company out there, they need to list each of their employees, and they need to position those employees as the expert designer of sustainability in this zip code. And you can reach me at these hours between 9 and 5
hmm,
and ask me about it. So the AI is going to be sophisticated because what the AI wants is a result. They want an expert. The AI actually wants to be able to tell the user this is the very best available information at this moment, right? So, in
local
addition
to
to an
you.
analysis, we need to redefine our employees and put them on the website.
Wow. Gosh, this is, yeah, my brain's working over, going, oh my goodness, this is changing this, this is changing that. Well, and we haven't even talked about the employee thing is something that I never thought of, but you're right. It actually can show that your company is multifaceted and has lots of expertise under your brand. Um, but what about, I mean, I'm even thinking that hard to find plants, that has, I've heard often, we do a lot of interviews to, we interview landscape architects, landscape
Yeah.
designers, and they go, well, I don't use any of the new plants because locally I can't source them. So I don't even pay attention to the newest varieties. Um, but this local garden center
Yeah.
slash landscape brand that is drop shipping plants, it means the availability of these new plants, new varieties that are better, more drought resistant, more flood resistant, that we'll be able to get these with no problem. Am I right?
No, you are right, and that's one of the other interesting things about the way that landscapes have evolved in the U.S. Landscapes are actually a a consequence of the supply chain, right?
Yes.
Because somebody can't install something they don't get, right? Think about the number of sales that are lost because there's not a signature piece for the patio, right?
Yeah.
Something that is statuesque, something that is big, like a great citrus piece, right?
Yeah.
Or a great winter hardy banana, right? Think about down in Louisiana, just the number of bananas that you have access to that are there, or the different sort of hibiscus or coffee trees or things like that. These are
I've
things that are
often,
available all across the country now
yeah.
as signature accent pieces that a landscape contractor or design maintenance firm, they now have the ability to make additional money on those products.
Well, and it's funny because when I moved to Lafayette, I went, oh, I'm going to go get these plants. I love like a naturalistic scheme, but I love to mix perennials and grasses, and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
Go, oh, this is good for zone 9 because zone 9 is pretty tough. And I lived in Scotland, and so that was more the equivalent of like a zone 5,
Yeah.
or even colder. And I was like, oh, yeah, this will survive. Okay. And I go to my local garden center, and they didn't have any of these. And I guess um, they sold what would sell, but you don't know what will sell. And, I recognize that garden centers would have to take a risk on selling something that you don't see in anybody's
Yeah.
yards or commercially, and so it's a big risk, and they have to place a big order to carry something that might not sell. When I learned more about like the supply chain, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's making our planting schemes stagnant and very generic. And even a lot of people don't even talk about the varieties and the cultivars and there's so much room for some exciting planting schemes, but if you can't get it, you give up pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, just since you brought grasses up, right? We have an amazing supplier, Hoffman Nurseries
Oh, I love
from North
Hoffman.
Carolina, who is a specialist in grasses and sedges. And, we have a very wide assortment of grasses.
Yeah.
But, the point that you made there, and it goes back to the supply chain. So, in
Yeah.
those particular instances, if you think about the way that your local garden center may not have carried the breadth of the assortment and the
Mm,
uniqueness that you would like to see there, just think about then the inability of a landscape contractor because nothing
yeah.
else is provided locally, right? But we
Yeah.
do have the opportunity in looking at providing better diversity. One of the
Mm,
reasons that plant material was so sought after during the pandemic was that consumers actually saw that plant material could help heal them.
hmm.
Plant material provided a way for consumers to reconnect with the earth. And I
Yeah.
think that one of the reasons that I'm so excited about being here and I'm so excited about the assortment of vendors that we have is that we have an opportunity and local businesses have an opportunity to increase plant diversification, right?
Hmm.
We have the ability
Yeah.
as unique individuals to actually provide an increase in plant communities so that
Yeah.
the earth can heal in a different way than it's been able to heal.
Well, and without risk, like I said, the garden centers locally, it's a tough, market and living goods. And, you can't just on a whim try some different plants, and invest in them. And so
Right.
that's what I like about it. We're not asking these garden centers to risk their livelihood to carry different plants, which I do feel, you can complain that, oh, I don't have enough native plants nearby, but it's a huge risk. And I don't blame those businesses who, a lot of them have been in business for many years, tens of years, you know, like to take a huge risk on their inventory. And, um, but you guys have created a solution that, eh, now your suppliers, are there, like if I'm here in Louisiana, and we have Forest Hill,
Yeah.
not far, are they some of your suppliers? Are we still getting some plants pretty locally when we can? Like, or is that just um, hard to say on a day-to-day basis? Or
So So one of the things that we are providing is the plant material. It's diversified and like I say, it's going to be able to provide a part of an assortment that local sellers don't have
okay,
access to. But one of the things that
okay,
we've done, and it's very important in looking at the e-commerce sort of side of our business, we've actually prioritized the quality control and the
oh,
systems that are actually required for people to be 5-star fulfillment companies. So everybody that's one of our suppliers, they're all 5-star. These are people who
oh,
are experts and they have teams who are in place to make sure that when the plant material is delivered, that these individuals, it's the greatest plant material that can be delivered.
okay.
It is the standards that you're actually going to see through the images. So people don't have to worry that there's some sort of inflated sort of hero image versus the plant material that's actually
What
going to
they
be
receive.
provided. The other thing
Yeah.
that we're providing is customer service. So if that homeowner would actually receive a plant and they need some extra care, we have someone who can provide. that extra care for
Wow.
them, because we want people to be satisfied. My good friend Summerine Oaks, she was actually saying that, sort of a decade ago, there was this whole thing about green thumb, black thumb, right? And when we used that to help people decide what sort of, a plant person they were, all of a sudden we discounted 50% of our potential customers because we told them they had a black thumb, right? So all of a sudden Summer comes out and she says, no, everyone's in the yellow range, right? You just haven't met your right plant. You just don't
Yeah.
have it in the right place. So what
Or
we
been
want to do with
coached properly, or
yeah,
yeah.
right. So
Oh,
what we
wow.
want to do with our customer care individuals is to help everyone who's purchasing plant material through our fulfillment resource and our solution, that we're getting the right plants in the hands of consumers all across the country so that they can be satisfied. Because again, it's a healing process. It's very therapeutic, and we want people to have the best experience possible.
Well, and also, now this is my design and build head
Yeah.
coming out too. Like, you develop a planting scheme, and you're putting in trees that are very young. And I've always been conflicted on, like, well, this is a live oak that we're putting in, and the plants that we have underneath them, when the tree's 40 years old, are going to be different from the plants that we put
Yeah.
underneath them at installation. So no matter what your planting scheme, like as for a design and build project, you can have your ideal mature scheme, but what you put in the day of installation is a different scheme. So again, you're then, giving your clients a way to order through you as the landscape evolves and changes and grows, and you have more shade, and now you need to swap those plants out for something that can thrive in shade. So yeah,
And that's where
there's
that local business makes money, right?
yeah,
So that they make money on the young tree and on that underplanting that was for a sunny spot.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, as the tree is 10 years older and they have to go to medium shade, it's recurring revenue.
yeah.
So those companies get recurring revenue every
Gosh.
single year on that business when they're not out there. So it's recurring incremental revenue that people didn't have before.
For starting at $1,000 a
Yeah.
year. I mean, I think that's very reasonable for what I mean, you can't build a website for that. Um, you can't figure this out on your own for anything near that cost.
Well, and I'll tell you, while I'm here talking to you, and while this was my idea, I have had the greatest people because with our strategic partnership with Shopify, like we have great resource. We're utilizing some additional AIs, right, to make it easier for personalization and recommendation, so that as these landscape companies consumers are actually going back in, they're actually getting the information that they need right at that time. The other thing that we're doing to actually help these consumers is we have a marketing and workflow about the post plant purchase, because we believe, just like the way a local landscape company would call to say, hi, I'm just checking in. Is everything
Yeah,
watered? Did it look great? And just that whole personalization of it, we're actually doing follow-ups. How's your plants doing? Do they need some fertilizer? Right? So every time that we
yeah.
contact those consumers back again, we're going to encourage them to do something either with nutrition, with soil science, with staking, or with lighting. And every time we do that post plant purchase marketing, that local business is making money again. So they make money on the initial plant purchase, and then they're going to make money on the monthly recurring additional amendment, and then they make annual recurring inventory money when they have to replant the plants again. So we've
And
designed this to help provide an ongoing stream of income back to these local companies and
and is
businesses.
that included? I mean, that the marketing, the emails and all that, that's included in these yearly fees that you talked about, like starting at $1,000 a year? That's all
Absolutely.
included?
So there are
Wow.
5 parts to our product. There's the platform, which is Shopify. We provide the suppliers. We provide the assortment, a 52-week assortment. We provide marketing to be able to sell to that local business's email list, and we provide customer support.
Hmm, that is a bargain.
It is a bargain, and people have an opportunity to take advantage of this bargain.
Yeah. Well, and those of you listening, we will have in the show notes, we will have um, how to contact Clint and his team. Also, how to get your website checked, like Clint mentioned a few minutes ago, or maybe 10 minutes ago, um, for GEO, not just SEO. Um, and we'll also have the link to get more information on building this into your website and building this capability. So it's not just theory, it can be done and with a small amount of input time. So,
Exactly. Now, I also want to give a shout out to you and your team, Angelique, because as we're partners, and I want to make sure that everyone understands that we're working together to actually
yes.
improve local businesses all across the country. You and I are working together to do that, and so there are pricing incentives for individuals who are a part of your group and that sort of stuff. So people just need to check out the links in the show notes and that sort of stuff, because there are pricing incentives to reinforce the relationship, because what you are doing is amazing. The work
Mm.
that you're doing, the work that you're getting the word out on for ways that people can upgrade their average transactions. We're very proud to be a part of this.
Well, and yeah, likewise, I think that innovation and change is not easy. Um, but there's times that you know, all the stars are aligned and, like we have the tools that can allow us to excel and give such capability to business owners that work so hard, um, and deserve to be successful, and increase your margins, increase your capability. Yeah, become become a greater brand in your local area. And I think that's what's neat about this is it's like a global solution or a national solution, but it helps those hyper local businesses. And yeah,
And
just a great,
reinforces their brand.
yeah, yeah. I've always, when I had my landscape design and build business, I always thought I'd have you know, plant fulfillment center too, or, and have a nursery, have something, just, it seems like a natural addition. But it's a hard thing to just add on. It's with
And,
live goods.
people are interested in buying plants 365 days a year. And there's no reason why these local landscape companies shouldn't be providing that.
Well, and we've had things like just here in Louisiana, and in Texas, we've had weather events. We're all experiencing severe weather events that actually impact our local growers, our local, stores. And again, this is another way to counter those effects. I think, yeah, it's, I'm very excited that, this is already like at first when we talked about this, I thought it was something that you were still building. You were building this capability, but it's ready. Um, and it's ready to add to your business like today. And I think it's very, yeah, future oriented, and yeah, excited to help educate, landscapers about this as an offering. And yeah, hopefully we can get some people, some listeners involved and start rolling things out. So yeah, this has been,
Absolutely. And we're
go ahead.
always we're always as close as a phone call if anybody has any questions or anything like that. But you're right. This product is available today for people to take advantage of.
Thanks, Clint. Yeah, great to have you on today.
Angelique,
Really
thank you.
appreciate your time. And let's do it again as things are changing and evolving. We'll have to keep our keep everything fresh and keep our audience educated as things change. So one of the things that we've already talked about is having a deeper understanding and education about this at our future Sync Live events. Articles, we're going to be doing a lot more on talking about how this can benefit people. So those of you listening, stay tuned for more.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, Clint. Great to hear about your background, and anything else you'd like to say before we sign off.
Well, I think there's a very bright future, and I think it's here. And I think people need to take advantage of it.
Well said. Awesome. Thanks for being on. Have a great
Thank you.
day.